Good day and welcome back to another DBZ Dokkan battle video. In this video we are going to be taking a look at the performance of the AGL Gogeta after his recent Extreme Z Awakening in the Broly Red Zone event. Now the reason why I want to check how Gogeta does is because of two things. So one, Broly disables evasion. And for those of you who obviously know about Gogeta, evasion is quite a big important part of his kit, which we'll talk about just now. But evasion is pretty important to Gogeta, so yeah, obviously disabling that is something interesting to see. I want to see him basically in a red zone where he's kind of almost impaired, can't even show off his full kit. I think that's interesting to see. And then secondly, obviously thematically, it's pretty cool to have Gogeta take on Broly, and we can see that whole basic refight that he did. So the thing about Broly starts in a strength phase, moves into a tech phase, moves into a strength phase where he fires an AoE super attack, and then finally we'll end it with an AGL phase where he fires multiple super attacks. So in general, Broly is pretty tough. I think people still consider him one of the toughest red zones. I would say he's definitely up there. At least tie toughest red zone. I think Metalcore Cooler is really difficult. I think Broly is also very difficult. I think the rest are maybe a step below him. We remain to see with the Androids one. But I think Gogeta does do very well. We're trying Gogeta on a Movie Heroes team. Gogeta is under 170% lead only. He is not under a 200% lead. So there is also that level of hindrance to him. And the reason why I've tried a Movie Bosses team is, well, one, just to change it up a little bit. And two, just to see how he does in a bit of a different situation. Now Gogeta's passive is pretty good. He's got attack and defense of 140%. He has 50% evasion in his base form and attacks effective against all types. And then when he transforms, he has attack and defense of 150%, guaranteed crits, and 70% evasion. He also has attack that will only activate after he evades, so that's the real limiting factor for him. But he does stack his attack and defense for 4 turns, greatly raising attack and defense. And with a Rainbow Vegeta, his defense can get really high. We're talking like in the 600,000s. So he should, in theory, be able to tank, but it's going to be very interesting to see. Something that will be interesting to see is this phase, the tech phase. The main reason being, obviously, that it's going to be very interesting to see how Gogeta does in a fight where essentially he has type disadvantage and cannot evade. So there's no real way for him to move out of the attack. The tech phase also comes a little bit early in the fights as well. So it's going to be interesting to see just how well he does, basically. And he will take a fair amount of damage. I think that's fairly plain to see. One nice thing is you can run him alongside this tech Goku. And you can set him up really nicely. This tech God Goku is a fantastic tank in this event. And he pairs up really well with Gogeta, sharing 6 links with him. So you do have a very good setup for Gogeta, which I think is very important in the long run. I think it's super important for Gogeta to have that setup. Once you've obviously got the transform state of Gogeta, you also have the guaranteed crits. So generally speaking, damage is never really a problem for Gogeta at any given point in time. So overall, Gogeta, I think if you read up about him or you see people's opinions on him, a lot of people consider Gogeta to be potentially the best easy ATUR in the game, and I wouldn't really argue with that, if I'm honest. I do think Gogeta is possibly the best in the game. As an easy ATUR, I do think he's just really exceptional. One thing I do like about this Movie Heroes team is this tech Gogeta. So he'll take a little bit of damage here, but we can see where the super attacks are all coming from. We obviously are able to put our AGL, Goku and Vegeta in the right place, and they're going to be able to take a couple attacks here to really get close to that morale boost, which is going to help them out quite a bit. So yeah, Overall, honestly, Gogeta, to sum it up, does a great job in this event. He's got great damage, he has type advantage for 2 of the phases defensively, and his defense actually gets up high enough that he's fine for every single phase pretty much. You do have a slight problem if you don't get him to blue by the time you are facing the tech unit. If you burst through a bit too quickly, he can take damage. I've done a run where he takes 130k or so. That's not too much. It sounds like a lot, but it's really not that bad considering he is an AGL type, and that is quite a tough phase for AGL type units. The amount of damage he brings though is very, very much so super duper high. So his damage in this kind of situation is something that's incredibly helpful and is going to be very helpful as well. It's going to be interesting to see how much damage he takes here. There are no items active. And Gogeta, yes, he does have type advantage, but he hasn't been able to really build those attack and defense stacks. He will be able to, obviously if he gets 2 attacks off, which would be great. We have built him full additional for this. But the damage you're going to see is pretty good. 6.9 million, obviously you can't activate the evasion mechanism, which would be super helpful, but it's not a bad thing. And you're going to see some really good damage. Only 1 attack, but single digits, so all in all, pretty damn good. And Gogeta only gets stronger from here on out. Once he starts building those stacks and building all of those abilities, then everything really starts to look more than fine. So overall, I would say Gogeta just looks really, really solid, honestly speaking. I think, you can, as a person, or as a player, maybe get too caught up with the fact that he loses out his evasion, but in most events he's actually fine with just raw defense. Yes, if he gets hit by a super, he definitely will probably get you killed, so that is one thing you do have to factor in for the final phase. But at the same time, a lot of units are like that. At the end of the day, very few units can always survive head-on attacks from these bosses without really having these kind of like pseudo defensive abilities, or these nullification abilities, or evasion, or anything like that. So the main test will be here. We're going to see how much damage he takes without an item from a normal, and that's going to be basically where this run kind of ends from an analysis point of view. Because once we see how much damage Gogeta takes, we really don't have to, like, in theory, see much more. It would be nice to see how much he takes from a super. It'll also be nice just to see how much damage he does in general. But yeah, for the most part, there's no real focal point you need to do about, anything here, really. I think, Gogeta, for the most part, will look pretty good. Just taking single digits like this, and yeah, he's basically good to go. He didn't even get an additional in his previous turn or in this one, so yeah, overall just looking really, really stellar. I think Gogeta is a very, very strong unit, very much a high damage dealing unit as well, so he pairs really nicely on all these teams. He's got great damage dealing. This Gohan, by the way, doing a really good job just causing so much damage. Yeah, I really like Gohan. Even as a floater, I actually think he's really a lot of fun to run. So, yeah. But, yeah, honestly speaking, I think Gogeta is very good. I think if there's only one criticism, actually, I just really don't think there's that much of a criticism. Like, honestly speaking, only way really is if you drop some of the stacks that he maybe becomes a bit vulnerable, but dropping the stack shouldn't be too common if you keep him in your main rotation. Obviously there's some danger to that, especially early on, but honestly Gogeta early on, most events shouldn't really give him problems. If I'm being honest, you shouldn't really have a massive issue as a player early on with Gogeta. Like, you shouldn't have this huge issue with him. You should be more than fine, just because like he still has 50% evasion and he still has a decently high defense. So yeah, although obviously maybe not necessarily high enough to truly take on super hard events, I think it's more than high enough for the most part. But yeah, we do fine with this team. We get obviously a bit unlucky with where some of the super attacks land. But yeah, this team was a lot of fun actually to run. And Gogeta fits on it perfectly. Like I said, especially in any event where you can have the Super Saiyan God Goku as his like front tank, as his tank 1, as his slot number 1. I think that's always a really, really good situation for you as a player and just in general. Because he thrives off of that ability to just avoid taking damage is super duper powerful. And I think overall it's really, really strong. So yeah, for me, I would say Gogeta on a scale of performance, probably a 9 out of 10 for Red Zone in general, and yeah, just like an 8 out of 10 for the Broly fight. Obviously, you want units that don't die, but Gogeta doesn't die. He will die to a super, but again, most units will die to a super, so Gogeta, honestly, just there from a damage perspective, is huge. His crits make him valuable on any stage. I mean, you can just see like how much damage he does. I'm really upset we didn't get a single additional at all in this event. Like, we didn't get a single additional, which is kind of a bit of a bummer, actually. But yeah, overall, Gogeta did a great job. Tech Gogeta actually does not do a great job, unfortunately. Well, he does alright, but he gets hit by a super, I believe, which is why we die. But yeah, that's okay. That's honestly more than fine. At the end of the day, not a huge issue. And yeah, like I said, I think Gogeta does a great job. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on how you think Gogeta did. And yeah, just in general, if you've used him in Red Zone, or you plan on using him, or if you haven't used him, when will you use them, etc. But yeah, overall, hope you enjoyed it. Bye.